and there's a whole city at my fingertips.
When did your clan become welcome in the Camarilla cities? Before I slept, most La Sombra were firmly Sabbat.
They didn't sell sliced bread before you slept. It happened a few years back. The situation changed, and so did we. Well, some of us. Some are stubborn fools.
Before diving into Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, I found myself wondering the same things many of you probably do. Is this really the kind of vampire power fantasy that makes you feel unstoppable? Does the story hold enough weight to pull you through the darker, slower moments? And perhaps the biggest concern of all in modern gaming, does it run well enough to enjoy without wanting to punch a hole in your monitor? Those questions circled in my head long before the first cutscene even began, and by the time I finished my playthrough, I had answers for all of them. Some answers came wrapped in excitement, some in a sigh of frustration, but they all played their part in shaping this review. The game's performance is the first thing that hits you, and not always in a graceful way. I ran it on Ultra with Nvidia DLSS at quality, and no matter what combination I tried, there was always that annoying little stutter waiting to show up at the worst moment. Texture flickering and shadow issues also like to remind me that the game's technical side was not as polished as its atmosphere. Even though it never crashed during normal gameplay, it did instantly collapse when I tried enabling frame generation or Nvidia Reflex, so I learned to leave those completely alone. Despite all this, the game remained playable and immersive enough that I could move past the flaws, but they definitely lowered how smooth and modern the experience felt. On the other hand, the story and characters put in effort to make up for those rough edges. I absolutely loved the narrative. It is full of twists, emotional weight, and choices that genuinely feel like they matter. You are not just creating a character, you are stepping into a life that has already been lived, with a past full of secrets and a second voice trapped in your mind. Fabian's presence gives every scene an extra layer, sometimes guiding, sometimes arguing, sometimes making you wonder which one of you is actually in control. The characters you meet throughout Seattle feel alive and distinct, with their own motives and their own energy. The voice acting is exceptional, especially for Fabian, and even your own character's voice can feel powerful at times. These elements kept me hooked, even when the game's technical hiccups tried to break the flow. The world design also plays a huge part in the game's charm. Seattle feels moody, neon-soaked, snowy, and full of vertical opportunities. Climbing rooftops, gliding across buildings, and sneaking through alleys gave me that perfect supernatural predator feel. The city evolves as you progress, which gives a real sense of consequence. Yet once you have explored everything, the areas do start to feel repetitive. The visual atmosphere is gorgeous, but the occasional, low-resolution face textures and oddly blurry surfaces disrupt that beauty more often than they should. Sometimes I would be completely immersed in the environment only for a nearby NPC's face to remind me that the game needed a bit more time in the oven. Combat is something I enjoyed but never fully admired. It is fast, surprisingly fun, and carries enough weight in its sound effects to feel satisfying. However, it does not always feel refined. Certain swings feel jittery, enemy moves unpredictably, and some encounters devolve into just spamming abilities and hoping the game reads your inputs properly. Still, the freedom to blend stealth, brute force, or a mix of supernatural abilities gives combat enough variety to stay entertaining throughout the story. I especially like pairing time stop with automatic refilling of relocation abilities, which practically turns you into a glitching nightmare that enemies cannot keep up with. Customization sits somewhere in the middle of the spectrum. I appreciated the outfits, facial changes, and eye options, but they never felt deep enough. The lack of toggles for clothing or extra style choices made the options feel a bit stiff, yet I still loved that whatever I picked stayed consistent in all the cutscenes, so my version of the character always felt like mine. It is one of those systems that is good enough to enjoy, but easy to wish it was just a little more detailed. The world's NPC behavior can also be a mixed bag. While the major characters are fantastic, the random civilians sometimes behave oddly. Occasionally they run into walls, disappear when they should be present for story events, or even shift between male and female voices mid-bite. These little slips do not ruin the immersion, but they poke at it gently enough for you to notice. Despite everything, the fun factor stayed surprisingly high for me. With all side quests and the main story completed, I can say I genuinely had a blast. There is something rare and satisfying about playing a vampire who actually feels powerful rather than fragile. Feeding, gliding, manipulating, and tearing through enemies constantly reminding me that this game understands the fantasy it is selling, even when the technical side struggles to keep up. Overall, after weighing the highs and lows, I end the journey with a final score of 84%. Summed up in a phrase, I would give it vivid and emotionally engaging. The game shines brightest in its story, atmosphere, sound design, and character, while the technical issues, performance drops, and visual inconsistencies dim the glow just enough to be noticeable but not enough to destroy the experience. If you do plan to play, I recommend holding on to your potions until you really need them, investing heavily into abilities that match your playstyle, and taking your time to thin out enemies before charging headfirst into danger. Unlocking high tier clan abilities can completely reshape your experience, and if you use your powers creatively, the game rewards you by making you feel truly monstrous in all the right ways. Thank you for spending time with me and sticking through this review. I appreciate every bit of attention you give to these breakdowns, and I hope it helped you decide whether Bloodlines 2 is worth your time. Take care of yourselves, enjoy whatever game you jump into next, and I will see you all in the next one.
Opposite of an elephant? Anyway, can you tell me who might use this or what they need it for?
You have partial information, young man. There's a manufactured component here. Some of that modern messing.
And that is it for today's video. I am really thankful to you for watching the video and hanging out here on my channel. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and stick around. There is a lot more coming your way. Stay tuned, take care, and as always, keep gaming. See you next time.